Well, open access is very important to universities for one very simple reason. Today, everything must be digitally searchable. And if your results are not digitally searchable, they do not exist. So there is no alternative. It's not a luxury. It's the daily bread of a university to be in open access and to be visible on the net, and to be able to be found elsewhere in the world. Well, the first step any university should take is digitize their library. So in the library of each university, you should have a digital repository of the articles that you produce at that university. That way, the production of any university is, in a way, communicated to the rest of the world. And then, secondly, in each part of the university, in each school, the teachers and the researchers from early days on should be familiar with the digital world. They should be trained to use it, the students. They should be trained to contribute to it when they start to write a thesis, when they do PhD work, and when they become a researcher. So it should be part of the curriculum that the digital world is the real world where science is being communicated these days. And if you're not a participant there, and if you're not visible there, simply you're cut off from the world. The difficulty is sometimes to do with, well, people are not used to it, it's new, so innovations take time. It's also a language issue. If you want to be traceable outside your own country, you must also use other languages. So if Greek universities are only publishing in Greek and only have repositories in their own language, that's fine nationally, but it limits the use internationally. So it's also a stimulus to use other languages than your own. Of course, not forget your own language, but do an extra service. And sometimes researchers and universities are afraid this is all to be very, very expensive. But at the end of the day, it's much more expensive not to be visible. If universities are shutting themselves off, it is limiting the effect and the impact of your work. So if you compare this to what it actually costs, it is very cheap. Well, a couple of years ago in 7, we had a working group on open access. And we agreed upon, as the European University Association, on guidelines and principles of open access. That was adopted in our Barcelona meeting in 2008. And that is still the sort of frame of our policies. And what we are now trying to do is work with our European colleagues in Leroux and in Science Europe, in Brussels, to influence the European policies, and especially get into talks with the international publishers. Because it's very important that with publishers we talk on an international level and not just on a national level. These huge multinationals, they work on a global scheme and on a global scale. And if we only talk to Springer or Elsevier or what have you at a national scale, we are too dependent on them. So we really should be talking to them at an international scale. And that's why we invite them to roundtable conferences in Brussels. So the principles are the principles that we stated in Barcelona in 8. And on a month-to-month basis, we work on the basis of that in Brussels. Well, I think one can be very positive about the future. I have seen developments over the years going very fast. 15 years ago, it was new to almost everyone. Now, almost every place in Europe is familiar with it, and we are really doing a good job. We were here in Athens at the MediaNet conference, and I was very much impressed by all the projects that in the member countries of this project are taking place. And that is a good example of the swift developments that are taking place in Europe. And that will just continue. So it will be a very positive future with a lot of new things ahead of us that we also, all of us, can only profit from.